A robotics company is working towards a goal of having robots that can build themselves. This gets me closer to my ultimate goal of having a robot that is truly alive. We'll talk about it. There's a few qualifications to decide if something is alive or not. I don't hold strictly to all of them. So there's growth. That's the ability to get larger, or it could also be interpreted as the ability to heal. I have complicated feelings on that one. I could see an organism that, once born, doesn't heal and has a very specific job. Kind of how, like, some insects don't eat once they're in their adult stage, or they have extraordinarily short lifespans. I don't see that as an absolute necessity. There is reproduction, and that is obvious, and that links into heredity. If you're going to be alive, you better have a way to reproduce yourself. Then we have respond to the environment. Sure, if you're alive, you have to have some agency. You have to be able to perceive the environment and then act on that perception. We have a cellular structure. Again, I have complicated feelings about that. All the life we know on Earth has cells. There may be a form of life that doesn't utilize cells. But the more important ones are going to be metabolism and homeostasis. So if you are alive, you have to get nutrients, energy from the environment, utilize it in your own body, and turn it into something useful. For us, it's ATP. Thank you to our mitochondria for keeping us alive. And homeostasis is a little bit of a wonky one. So you have to maintain your own internal cellular environment. Now, where doesn't a robot fit in? Yes, it can respond to the environment. Yes, it does do a form of homeostasis. It does take energy in, utilize it, and produces waste from that. It can move, and some robots can even heal. Have you seen the living flesh thing? Using human skin cells to make healing flesh for a robot's body? It's wild. And we all know, because I love talking about it, we've endowed robots with a tiny human brain grown from stem cells that controls the robot. I love it. It's creepy. But that's a real living component. If we wanted to make a robot that was alive, I think we would need to give it the ability to reproduce. For me, that would look very much like heredity. And we have seen some versions of that in simulations. It's a form of heredity. These guys gave an AI the task of developing its own body form. It could design a body for itself and figure out what the most effective way to move was. And it came up with a lot of wacky ideas. But that's not exactly the same as the heredity that we're talking about in evolution, but I could see it being done. A robot that monitored its environment, and as it went through it, it could come up with simulations, and it could reproduce itself as better than it was. That would be a form of evolution. Like my little robot, who's presently off right now, keeps walking off the desk. It perceives the edge of my desk, but can't quite seem to get it right with not walking off of it. I imagine it could use that information to design an offspring that would no longer walk off my desk and injure itself. I seriously don't want to have to keep repairing it. For it to be truly considered alive, though, it would have to be an internal structure. Why can't we build one with an internal structure where it can start making itself? I've seen various ways that this is defined, but growth. Life has to grow. I don't think that assembling itself is all that different than the way we assemble our offspring. However, this particular announcement is really just for publicity. There's really no benefit to having a robot that's designed to look like a human work in a factory. Factories already have robots that do a specific job, and that's what they're designed for. The only benefit that I could see of assigning a humanoid robot to the task of building other robots is if it were a job that was entirely designed for people, around the comfort of people. You could take a robot that looks like a person and give it that job. But honestly, what we see far more often in industry is just designing a robot specifically for an individual job. I am so happy people don't have to screw the tops on Coke cans any longer. And what do you think? How would you feel about a truly living robot?